I love this analogy. My friends who are into martial arts, they like, oh, be like water, like free flowing.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Walter here, and you're at the Think Profit podcast, where we're going to help you develop a rock-solid trading confidence and avoid the potentially endless cycle of system switching. Right, Hugh?
That's right. We're going to help you develop a wealth mindset, develop a trading strategy that fits your core personality, and help you overcome the obstacles that stop over 90% of traders.
All right, Hugh, sounds good. You ready to go?
Yeah, let's do this. Hey, Walter. So there are some things that I used to say to myself, like, that's not possible, or you're so dumb, or I used to ask for permission a lot. And I realized that I was programmed that way partially because I was telling myself that on a daily basis. And have you come across, what were some of the things that maybe you were programming yourself with just by your speech?
Right. So it's interesting the way I see it is, I guess you could say that I'm programming myself, but the way I see it is that it's kind of like water. So water will go down the path of least resistance, right? Like down the side of a mountain, and that becomes the river, right?
Yeah.
Okay. For everyone watching this, everyone listening to this, I think what happens is you go down that path of least resistance. And where does that come from? It comes from your experience. So it's exactly what you're saying, Hugh. It's the things that you've heard before in your family, like growing up, and that kind of becomes what you say to yourself. So in a sense, you do program yourself, but that comes from your experience, right? So your individual experience growing up, and particularly experience that you had with the important people in your life, and the experience you had, like the relationship you had with money, that to me is what you're talking about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what you're saying is true. Yeah. Go ahead.
So you're basically just perpetuating whatever was programmed into you, right?
Yeah. So yes, but I have a very subtle distinction, because I agree with everything you're saying, except I wouldn't say, just me, I wouldn't say it was programmed into you. I would say, like water, like you're like water, right? Like, so we're like the water. I love this analogy. My friends who are into martial arts, they like, oh, be like water, like free flowing. Anyway, I wish, some ways I wish I was like a Bruce Lee, and I'm not. But anyway, so you, or I should say Jackie Chan. I guess Bruce Lee is old. That dates me, doesn't it? Yeah. So what I would say, instead of saying that what's been programmed into me, I would say what I've found to be accessible, or like what's easiest for me to latch onto. And what's easiest for me to latch onto as a trader and as a person is what was around the house, what the things that I heard growing up, right? So I'll tell you what the big two for me were that I mostly grew up basically in a single parent household. Okay. All right. And so, my mom had relationships and stuff, but my father, I affectionately call him my sperm donor, because he was gone by the time I was 5, that sort of thing. So that was a big one for me, was trying to figure out, like, am I worth anything? If I was worth something, surely, you know what I mean? Like, if I was actually worth something, surely my father would be around. Like, he left. So I must be worthless. You know what I mean? So that's number one. And number two is, my mom would always say things like, and my mom was brilliant. Trust me. She did a great job with her kids. Unbelievable. Okay. This is nothing against my mom. I love my mom. She was literally unbelievable, the things that she was able to juggle at the same time. Amazing. So, but what was interesting was that, she would say things like, we can't afford it. And especially, money doesn't grow on trees. Where do you think we'll get the money from? So those two things, so kind of like a low self-worth, and this thing about money, which is like so hard to get, when in reality, if you think about it, and money is probably one of the most replenishable resources on earth. I mean, they literally print it out of thin air.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Ask any central bank. So that was actually wrong. Like, in both things, I was wrong. Like, the thing to do with my mother, my father, had nothing to do with me, right? And then the thing about money is that money literally is probably one of the most replenishable resources in the entire globe. So that was for me. Like, and so what I would say is, those things, I use those things to program myself. You know what I mean? I pulled on those things because they were so accessible, because they just were easy. And that was the path of least resistance, is to rely on those crutches. And so I had to, like, overwrite those, you know what I mean? And say, no, like, logically, you can do that two ways. You can do it with logic, and you can do it with simple, like, almost like emotion or like yeah, like psychedelics or like subliminals or anything like that. Hypnosis is a little bit of both logic and emotion, but yeah,
Yeah.
so that's kind of a yeah, so it's kind of an interesting way to say it. You know what I mean? Like that you've been programmed that way. I would say, we have the choice to program what we want.
Mhm.
And your subconscious is only, to me, your subconscious is like a dog. Like your dog can go and fetch that paper for you every morning. Your dog can make sure that he does his business in the right corner of the yard,
Yeah.
all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or your dog can attack, everyone who comes to the door and
Yeah.
can poop all over the place. You know what I mean? Like that's your subconscious. You just have to train it the right way to what you want, and that's what will work. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
how I see it.
I believe that everybody's kind of programmed a certain way. I think it's kind of hard to get out of that. What do you think about that? Like your innate, whatever personality that you're born with.
Yeah, in some like in psychology, they talk about internal locus of control and external locus of control. So the
Mm.
people that say like everything is due to them, like, oh, I'm in this situation because of the world around me. And then there's those people who say, well, I'm in this situation, but I basically chosen this situation through my path, the decisions I've made in my life. And so if I want to get out of this situation, I got to make other choices,
Yeah, yeah.
And so you kind of see that in people who say like they're stuck in a job or whatever, when really I think internal locus of control is more realistic and that you chose to go a certain way and got there. And so that's how I would say about your subconscious beliefs and those beliefs that are really kind of driving our everyday behaviors. You're right. I mean, you're right. Okay, you're right. The reason why it's so difficult to reprogram yourself is because most people aren't aware. They're not even aware. Like they're not even aware of the things they say to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how they do like time management courses? They'll say, okay, write down everything you did for like a day or a week or whatever. And then you have a list and you go, oh my God, I've been wasting my time. Like, you know what I mean?
I've been
I
watching
never do
Netflix
work.
all
I'm
day.
always on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's kind of the same thing, I think, with your subconscious, where if you actually took inventory of the things that you say to yourself and the things that you think and the thoughts that you think, you'd be like, hang on. So what's like my driving belief system here? What's going on? Like, and those will kind of come up in your self-talk. Like you get a little tiny glimpse of that when you pay attention to your self-talk. So yeah, I think you're definitely on the right track. I think, like from my point of view anyway, like thinking that way. But I think we just have to remember that we choose, like we literally choose how to run, like which programs to run, how to run them, and we can become aware of those. And another thing you can do is when you wake up in the morning, just start writing. Right when you wake up in the morning, you're in the hypnopompic state. So hypnagogic is when you're going to sleep. Hypnopompic is when you're waking up. And you can literally, in either state, it's a little bit harder to do when you're going to sleep for obvious reasons. But when you wake up, if you can just kind of write stream of consciousness, like in an emotional journal or something, and see those things, and likewise when you go to sleep, you can make like a really strong fist, really tight, and then as you're falling to sleep, you'll start to feel it kind of relax, and that's when you're going to sleep, and that's when you should start thinking things that you want to sort of seed your subconscious. Like it might only be one thing. I take the best trading opportunities according to my strategy. I take the best trading opportunity, or whatever, whatever you're trying to, I attract money easily, or whatever you're trying to, like, you know what I mean, overwrite with all that stupid crap that we've accumulated over time.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think the programming is in the beginning of your life, basically. But then if you don't have the awareness to overwrite that, then it's going to rule your life. But you're right. If the awareness is important, you just have to overwrite that at some point. Hey there, I hope you're finding this episode useful. I just wanted to let you know that Walter and I give away something valuable every month that helps traders improve their skills. You can enter to win by simply leaving an iTunes review and leaving a comment on our YouTube videos. At the end of each month, we'll look at the comments and reviews from the month, and we'll pick a winner at random. Each comment and each review counts for one entry during the month that it's submitted. So if you're interested in that, be sure to enter after this podcast is over. All right, back to the episode.
Yeah, I have to say, man, it kind of makes me sad, but like where I live, I have to walk by what in the States we would call it the projects, okay? But it's not, they call it something else here in Australia, I forget, okay? But where I live, I don't have to, but a lot of times I walk by. I usually ride my bike and walk. I don't like to drive a lot. And where I live, you don't have to, right? Everything's right here. So I go by these projects, and it kind of makes me sad because I see exactly what you're saying, Hugh. Like I see people, especially with their kids and stuff, and the things that they say. And I just feel like, man, it would be so easy to not easy, but if they just had this one thing, if they
Yeah.
just took stock of what they think and how that, you know what I mean, like how that's driving their lives, if they could just kind of just become aware of that and flip it,
Yeah.
it would make a big difference. And if people just feel like they're stuck.
Yeah, no, I had a similar experience last week. This woman was in our neighborhood. She was looking for directions, and she said, "Yeah, you're all the rich people, but I'm trying to get back to the poor neighborhood." And in reality, these houses they cost less than the ones over there where she lives. But it's just that mentality of this is the rich people and we're the poor people, right? So yeah, it's just a thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so true.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks, Walter.
Thank you.
All information in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not trading or investment advice.